Imagine the sun sinking below the horizon, the plains turning gold, and shadows stretching long across the grass. For early humans millions of years ago, nightfall was not a time of rest, it was the most dangerous part of the day. When darkness came, the world belonged not to them, but to the beasts that hunted under the cover of night. This is the story of one of those nights, when prehistoric predators stalked the fragile humans who dared to survive in their world. Before we step into the darkness, make sure to subscribe, because every story of prehistory reveals a truth that is stranger, more terrifying, and more fascinating than we could ever imagine. As darkness settled over the savannah, early humans huddled together. They had fire, but only a weak one. Its flickering glow could push back shadows, but not the sounds that echoed in the distance. Hyenas cackled under the moonlight, their laughter chilling. Carried on the wind, saber-toothed cats padded silently through the grass. Unseen but always present, the night was never still. It breathed with the low growls of predators, the whispers of movement, the rustle of unseen things. For humans with nothing but wooden spears and stone blades, the night was a trial of endurance. Early humans were not yet the masters of their world. They had no walls, no villages, no certainty of safety. At night they relied on one another, pressing close, guarding children, watching the fire with desperate eyes. Fire was their shield, their fragile line against the beasts. But fire could die. And when it died, the shadows closed in. One such night, on the African plains, a small band of humans faced the terror of predators that moved with purpose. A pack of giant hyenas circled in the dark, their glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. They were larger and stronger than the hyenas we know today, with bone-crushing jaws capable of snapping through thick marrow. To them, humans were not hunters, they were prey. The fire slowed the beasts, but it did not stop them. With every passing hour, their patience grew, their circle tightened, and the humans inside the glow of the flames knew that dawn might never come. The leader of the group, a man hardened by hunger and endless struggle, clutched his spear. His family pressed behind him, the wide eyes of his children reflecting both fear and hope. He had seen these beasts before. He knew that if the fire burned too low, the hyenas would rush, their snarls filling the night. He thrust his spear at the shadows, warning them, showing strength. The beasts flinched but did not retreat. They waited. Predators knew patience. Farther in the distance, another danger stirred. The saber-toothed cat smilodons, with teeth like daggers, were solitary hunters, but their presence was unmistakable. They stalked silently, invisible until it was too late. The hyenas were loud, obvious, relentless, but the saber-tooths were ghosts. A single strike from their jaws could end a life instantly. For early humans, this was the double edge of night, the noise of some predators, the silence of others. And so the band endured the long hours, knowing the beasts would test them. Every crack of a twig, every sudden sound in the dark was enough to send terror flooding through their hearts. Yet they held their ground, because to run was worse. To scatter was death. The only chance was to remain together, spears raised, fire guarded, courage unbroken. But courage did not erase hunger. The group had not eaten well in days. Their firewood was running low, their strength fading. Night was not only a time of fear, it was a time when weakness revealed itself. And predators could smell weakness. They could sense when prey was too tired to fight, too thin to resist. The humans knew this. They knew that their only defense was to appear stronger than they felt, to stand taller than their fear, to act like hunters even when they were hunted. The oldest among them remembered another night, years before, when they had been caught unprepared. A camp without fire. A sudden rush of hyenas. The screams still echoed in his memory, the cries of those lost to the teeth and jaws of beasts. He whispered warnings to the younger ones, never let the fire die, Never let your guard fall. Never forget that in the dark you are never alone. These were the lessons of survival, learned not from books but from blood. As midnight came, the fire dimmed, the air grew colder, and the beasts grew bolder. The humans tightened their circle, clutching their children close, brandishing spears. The hyenas laughed in the dark, their voices mocking, a cruel chorus rising with the stars. It was a battle of patience now, a test of endurance. Would the fire last until dawn? Would their courage hold when the circle of predators finally broke? For early humans, this was the essence of life. Millions of years ago, survival was not guaranteed. Every night could be their last, every sunrise a victory. To endure was to defy the beasts, to claim a place in a world that wanted them gone. The night belonged to the predators, but somehow, against impossible odds, humans survived. And in part 2, we'll follow what happened when the line between firelight and darkness finally broke, when the prehistoric beasts stopped waiting, and the fragile humans had to face them in the dead of night. The fire sputtered, the flames shrinking lower with every crackle of the last branches. The night pressed closer, heavy and merciless, and the glowing eyes of the hyenas drew nearer. Their laughter echoed like a chorus of doom across the plains, mocking the fragile humans who clutched their spears. Children whimpered, mothers held them tight, and the men braced for the inevitable. 4 hours they had endured, but now the beasts knew the fire was fading, and with it, the human's shield was breaking. The leader stood at the edge of the camp, his spear raised, every muscle taut with fear and determination. He knew the beasts would come now, not later. They had waited long enough. He could hear the patting of their feet on the dry grass, the snapping of their jaws, the impatient growls that rose from their throats. These were not ordinary hyenas, they were massive, prehistoric monsters with skull-crushing bites, far more dangerous than the scavengers we know today. To them, humans were little more than weak prey, an easy meal once fire lost its power. And then it happened. The first rush. A hyena burst from the shadows, snarling, its jaws wide, aiming straight for the fire circle. The man lunged with his spear, striking the beast's shoulder. The hyena yelped and retreated, but not far. Another followed, snapping at the legs of a woman shielding her children. The camp erupted into chaos, screams, shouts, the clash of wood and bone against snarling teeth. The fragile line between firelight and darkness had shattered, but humans were not helpless. They fought with desperation, and desperation can be more powerful than strength. Spears jabbed, stones flew, burning sticks were thrust into the faces of the beasts. The smell of smoke and blood filled the air. The hyenas, though ferocious, were cautious. They tested the humans, lunging and retreating, trying to break the circle. They had numbers, but the humans had unity. Every step back was covered, every child shielded. Every thrust of a spear a reminder that these fragile creatures would not surrender easily. Yet as the battle raged, another shadow moved in silence. From the grass, a saber-toothed cat crept closer, drawn by the noise and the scent of blood, larger than any lion. Its muscular frame rippled with power. Its fangs gleamed like ivory knives. The humans had not yet seen it, to focused on the circling hyenas. But when the great cat's growl cut through the night, deeper and deadlier than any hyena's cry, the group froze in terror. The true hunter had arrived. The hyenas scattered, wary of their rival. They knew better than to challenge the saber-tooth. Now the humans were alone with the deadliest predator of their world. The cat stepped into the firelight, its eyes fixed on the group, its body low, its tail flicking with hunger. The leader tightened his grip on the spear, his breath heavy, sweat dripping down his brow. He knew this was no scavenger to scare with fire. This was a killer, a master of ambush, and if it charged, there was little hope. The cat circled, each step measured, muscles coiled like a spring. The humans raised their weapons, their voices shouting, trying to appear larger, louder, more dangerous. The fire crackled weakly, throwing shadows that danced on the beast's golden fur. For a moment, time seemed to stop, the predator and the prey staring at one another. The outcome uncertain. Then the cat lunged. The leader thrust his spear with all his strength, the tip striking deep into the animal's chest. The beast roared, a sound that shook the air, and thrashed violently. Claws tearing at the ground, the humans shouted, striking with stones and sticks. Desperate to drive it back, blood spattered across the firelight, the night filled with chaos. The cat staggered, snarled one last time, and finally turned, vanishing back into the darkness. Silence followed, broken only by the sobs of children and the crackling of dying flames. The humans had survived, but barely. They knew the cat might return, or another predator might smell the blood. They could not stay. Gathering their few belongings, clutching their wounded, they prepared to move before dawn. Survival meant never lingering where danger struck twice. As they walked into the dark, guided by faint starlight, the lesson of the night burned into their memory. Fire alone was not enough. Strength alone was not enough. Only courage, unity, and relentless adaptation kept them alive. They were fragile, but they were clever. They were weak, but they stood together. And it was these qualities, not claws, not fangs, not size, that carried humans through nights filled with predators. Nights like this one shaped humanity. They taught early humans the value of cooperation, the importance of vigilance, the power of memory. Each terrifying encounter became a story told around the fire, and later nights passed to children as warnings. Never let the flames die, never walk alone in the grass, never forget that in the dark you are never the hunter, you are the hunted. These stories were more than tales. They were survival guides, stitched into culture long before writing ever existed. Over generations, humans grew stronger, their tools sharper, their fires brighter. But the memory of those nights when beasts ruled the darkness and humans clung to survival never faded. It became part of our collective past, part of the reason why we still fear the dark. Why the sound of unseen movement still chills us, why fire still feels like safety. The echoes of those nights live in us even now. And so, the night prehistoric beasts hunted early humans is not just a single story. It is the story of countless nights, across millions of years. When our ancestors stood at the edge of extinction and refused to fall, they endured, they adapted, and they survived. Without their courage in the face of beasts, we would not be here to tell their story today.